Opinions expressed on all radio shows broadcast on KYOK are entirely those of the host, guests, and callers who are entirely responsible for all show content and do not in any way reflect the opinions of KYOK Radio, its sponsors, staff, or management.
You walk out, ask yourself this question. What time is it? What time is it? What time is it?
Dr. J! You ready?
I'm ready.
Any dogs in the house? Any dogs in the house?
When I step on the field,
I send one message. What?
this is what it feels like. This is what it feels
Oh my gosh. Breaking news.
What is that? Oh,
Goran Dragic.
uh-oh.
Let's hunt. Let's hunt. Any dogs in the house? Any dogs in the house?
We're talking about the Jets, like
We're talking about the Saints.
you know, all this color we remind the heat of football.
Yap, 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 yap.
The bottom line is you got to book it with the chin straps. It's embarrassing.
Yap, 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 yap.
Don't disrespect the game like that. It's too much hard for them.
He's a man.
It can be a hit just like that.
He's a man.
You already making big money. He's a man. You still want to kill man. Guess who I is?
When I step on the field, I send one message.
And this is what it feels like. Oh, my bad, my bad. You have been working all day. What time is it? What time is it?
Woo! That gets me hyped. Let's go. Let's go. By God, let's go. We ready. This game ain't over. It's just getting started right here on the lunch break on the legendary KYOK and the all-new 92.3 FM. Streaming live, kyokradio.org, and on YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, and Roku. That's right. You got a Roku streaming device. All you got to do is download BS3 TV. That's B as in boy, S as in Sam, the number 3 TV. And you got us in the middle of your big screen. You got us in the middle of your tablet. You got us in the middle of your iPad or your Mac. I mean, a PC. I'm sorry. What's it? Surface Pro. You know what I'm
Surface
saying?
Pro.
If you got an Acer Plus, you got us in the middle of that right here on the lunch break on the legendary KYOK. Man, today is Oh My Goodness Monday. And there was so many oh my goodness moments. I had to call in the A-team, man. I got Dr. J, Jennifer Thibeaux. We're going to have Willy Gibson coming on. We're going to have Coach Johnnie Cole with the HBCU. It's a packed show today. Dr. J, how was your weekend?
My weekend was packed. It was an oh my goodness weekend, that's for sure. And I'm so glad you picked the guest that you picked, particularly Coach Johnnie Cole, because I literally thought about him and said, oh man, he'd be so great to weigh in on some of the oh my Lord things that happened over the weekend. So I'm excited.
I'm excited too. And he's got some strong opinions about some things, all the way from Brian Flores getting hired by the Pittsburgh Steelers and some stuff going on in the NCAA. But before we get to any of that, let's talk about the NBA All-Star Weekend. What were your thoughts? And I'm talking about weekend-wide, not just the game. What were your thoughts about the NBA All-Star Weekend?
Okay, so deep breath, because it was a mixed bag for me. Now, the Saturday night events, I used to, with a strong really look forward to, emphasis on the used to, really look forward to the skills challenge and the 3-point contest and the dunk contest.
Yeah.
All right. And it was ruined for me a little bit back when NBA All-Star was in Dallas, because seeing it live and seeing it on television are two different experiences. That's number one, right?
Yeah.
And I really felt like I was back in the live experience this time around for the Saturday night festivities. They were boring. I'll just say it. Like, there's just no other nice way to say it.
Right.
It was just kind of boring. The skills challenge, they clearly didn't take it seriously. So we're not really seeing skills come out here, right? That's number one. Number two, the 3-point contest, it was fine. It was fantastic that you got the big man, Cat, Karl Anthony Towns, winning the whole thing,
Right.
with scoring a record 29 points during the skills challenge. Now, keep in mind, I know people hate asterisks. I'm gonna put an asterisk on it because there was no Mountain Dew ball back in the day, so there were additional opportunities to make points. Now, I'm not taking it away from him because he won against the field that went out to compete. However, how do you have a 3-point competition with not having Steph Curry in the competition? That's really a shame. But I understand the NBA has always trended on getting the younger players' names, other names out there. And while that's fine, it's not a demonstration of all-star if you have something so specific like 3-point contest and you don't have Steph Curry in it.
Yeah.
That's just me.
Yeah.
The slam dunk was awful. I almost feel like they need to pre-record it and show only the made ones and let us see that, because honestly, watching a bunch of misses is hard to swallow. It's bad television. There's only so much you can do. You show the audience going, what the heck? It's just bad all the way around. And they've got to figure out how to revamp it. So that was my Saturday experience. So I was not looking forward to Sunday because I thought, ooh, it's going, are we about to go from bad to worse? But we didn't. And it was kind of fun to watch from an offensive standpoint. But again, like all All-Star games, Pro Bowl, there is no defense that's being played. No one wants to sacrifice an injury during what's supposed to be a fun event. So if you were there to watch offense, to watch scoring and trick plays and fun passes in between players that don't play together, you saw it. If you were interested in seeing a bunch of defense, then you're still waiting and looking at the television.
Yep. Yeah, no,
that's my recap.
Very, very good, strong recap, Dr. J. Very good and strong recap. We got to take a break. I want to piggyback on everything you just said when we come back from this big break, next break. If you want to get in, 281-453-1000. That's 281-453-1000. It's the lunch break. It is, oh my goodness, Monday. And you got AJ and Dr. J right here on the lunch break. We'll be right back right after this.
Your car payment treating you. What if I told you you could make a free phone call right now and reduce your car payment by as much as $83 a month? Look at your car payment closely. You could be paying as high as 20% interest. Rate Genius can help you reduce your car payments by reducing your interest rate to as low as 2.48% APR. We can refinance most existing car loans or leased cars, new or used, and save you money every month. Put more money back in your pocket. The call is free to find out how low we can lower your car payment. 5 minutes of your time right now could save you hundreds of dollars a year. Call Rate Genius now.
800-811-4169. 800-811-4169. 800-811-4169. That's 800-811-4169.
Not allowed to disqualify for a loan rate savings. Actual offer terms, including APR, are determined at the time of your application based on creditworthiness, value of the vehicle, loan term, and other factors.
The KYOK 1140 AM and 92.3 FM. The legend continues.
I am Jacqueline Carr, and here is your winning strategy. How do you find confidence? You do so by negating all negative actions, negative words, and negative thoughts that goes against the champion that is on the inside of you. Proverbs 3:26 says, "For the Lord shall be thy confidence, and shall keep thy foot from being taken." You have to build yourself up on the word of God so that you can have confidence. You must cast down everything that has been spoken against you. Things things will be thrown at you to attack your confidence. But listen, my brother and my sister, you must allow them to go over, go around, and go beneath you. You need your confidence to have great faith in God. Confidence lets you trust God's word.
I'm Ben Tankard, and you are listening to The Lunch Break.
All right. A little winning strategy from Jacqueline Carr right here on the lunch break on the legendary KYOK, all new 92.3 FM, streaming live, KYOKradio.org. Dr. J and myself on Oh My Goodness Monday. And right before we came on the air, got a little notification that there is an oh my goodness incident that just happened. Everybody thought that Goran Dragic, after being bought out by the San Antonio Spurs, was on his way up the road to Big D. Apparently, Goran Dragic said, "Now send me a little bit closer to the east. I'm going to Brooklyn to run with Kyrie, Seth Curry, and who's that guy that plays in all over the place? Is that Kevin Durant, man? I'm going to just say something. That's a little bit of a squad right there. That's a little bit of a squad. And oh, yeah, by the way, I think they got this cat named Ben Simmons.
Well, to the east, my brother, to the east. That's what he said.
I'm not mad at Goran. Goran said, listen, don't be telling me where I'm going. I'll let you know where I'll be when I get there. And he's on his way to Brooklyn. Big signing because that's veteran leadership at the point. And that's a guy that can make plays for other people. And oh, yeah, by the way, he can score when you need it.
I like the look. I actually really like the look. They keep building. They keep adding pieces. Are you nervous that they are going to look like the Lakers soon?
No.
You're not? Tell me why.
You can get a whole bunch of players, and on paper, it just looked great. It looks great. But I have come to believe that there are only certain coaches that can coach that many star players and that many top-level personalities. I give a lot more credit than I used to Pat Riley. I give a lot more credit than I used to Phil Jackson. I give a lot more credit to Eric Spoelstra. I even give more credit to Steve Kerr. Because just because you got a lot of talent on the court doesn't mean you can just roll the ball out there and they're going to win. You got to be able to coach and manage, and you got to get the guys to buy into you. And I definitely don't know if Steve Nash can do that just yet. So we'll see. Right. On paper, they look real good.
Of course, they look great on paper. In 2011, they looked great on paper too. The Miami Heat. But, things happen, right? And so I think, to your point, there are very few coaches, I think, that can manage that level of star power on their roster. Yeah. And so it's going to boil down to coaching. You say what you want. It's going to boil down to coaching. It's not talent. The talent's going to be there. It's going to boil down to coaching. Talent's there.
I got to add another name to that list, too. Doc Rivers. Did in Boston, nobody else came in after him and did. You know what I mean? And just because he wasn't able to duplicate it in LA and hadn't quite gotten it done in Philly, what he did in Boston with Rajon Rondo, with Ray Jesus Shuttlesworth Allen, and my
Paul Pierce.
Paul Pierce and Kendrick Perkins. What he did with them, I'm telling you, not everybody can do. So I got to give him credit as well.
Absolutely. I really like Doc. Out of all the names, of course, I love all these legendary coaches, but Doc I love because he walked in the door and he was a player's coach.
Right.
And he changed up the schedule. He did things that with a player in mind, and they responded. And I truly believe that the best player-coach combination for Rondo has been with the Celtics.
Absolutely.
I believe that was where he performed the best, and I think it was coaching that allowed that relationship to gel, and we saw his performance on the court.
Second best was in LA when they won the chip. If they had not made a business decision, there wasn't any personalities, wasn't any chemistry conflict. They made a business decision to let him go, and the rest is, as they say, history. So it's going to be an interesting move. We'll see what Brooklyn does. I know there are a lot of Brooklyn fans out there that just rabid. They just swear that you just hand them the trophy now. But hey, you win those trophies on the court, not on social media.
Can I ask you a question? This is just out of the box a little bit. So we saw so much basketball this weekend and recaps of this great and that great. Does it really feel like, and sorry, Lakers fans, does it really feel like the Lakers won in 2020, won the championship? Because it was like the bubble. Like, I know they won. I understand they won. I get it. And have been a Lakers fan second to the Rockets for a long time. But isn't it weird how the bubble just made us feel like it was a different kind of basketball experience as a fan? Just to see them in a way?
It does. It did. But here's my thing. And I'm not saying you're doing this. Others have tried to do this. I don't minimize it because I really feel like the bubble added an extra level of difficulty to the feat. And I give them credit for doing that. Mm-hmm. But I will say, you had life-impacting things happen. The world as we knew it changed in 2020. So to win that championship there, it's almost like there were other more important or at least as important things going on. So that's why I feel like some people might say, wow, did the Lakers really win or did it even really matter? I mean, there was so much that happened nationally and globally that, basketball was just a
right, and it's a shame because it did matter, but you're right. We were watching so much that maybe rose to the same level that it just was like, oh, that's right. Like, of course, the Bucks won, but we were back to more of a normal, whatever that is, experience.
Kind of changed, globally.
Right, the atmosphere, right, globally, and what was priority was. So it just, I almost felt like ashamed that I actually felt like, did the Lakers really win? Because I just didn't get to celebrate the championship in the same way, in the spirit, because I wasn't in that sports spirit like I typically am during that time.
Right. No, I agree. Normally you've got maybe one or two things that rival the big, whatever the big sporting thing is. This time you had several. You had many things.
That's right.
None less significant than Kobe Bryant and what happened with him and everyone on that helicopter. Let's not forget the elections. Let's not forget how folks were literally locked down and couldn't go out and live a normal life. Not taking any sides, but there was a lot of major stuff going on. So it's almost like an afterthought. Oh yeah, the Lakers did win the championship, didn't they?
It was, and it's really a shame because they trained, they practiced, they prepared, they put a great sports product out there, as they always do. But the audience mentality probably had changed quite a bit in, what you tune into. We may flip to sports, but they're flipping right back to a news channel to see what's happened now, what's happening now, So it just, when I saw some of the highlights over the past couple of years, it was kind of like, oh my gosh, yes, that's right. They won.
Yeah.
But,
And if people really thought about it, we got to get ready to take another quick break. If people really thought about it, there were some really great games in the playoffs that year. Some really great series, that run that Miami had and how they won some of those games to get there. I mean, it was just absolutely amazing. So I do. And hear me when I say I'm not one of those guys that feel like you had to play the sport to be able to talk about it and appreciate it and have you. But there are certain elements that you can appreciate when you have played the sport, because there were folks that were calling for an asterisk. There were folks that were saying it really, it's not, it doesn't matter, And it's like, if you only understood that all that went into that, plus the extra mental fortitude that these players had to have, because you didn't have the same rest that you had for travel days. You didn't have the same energy from your crowd versus an opposing crowd. Those things were the details that folks who didn't play a sport, who might be great writers and broadcast journalists, really kind of overlook. Maybe they take those kind of things for granted if they even acknowledge them at all. And it's easy to write, oh yeah, that one deserves an asterisk because of this, because of that. And it didn't.
Well, they didn't even have their families, right? When they went to the bubble, they were not even allowed to have their families.
Right.
And even the referees, even the court side, broadcasters,
Right.
they were also in a bubble. They were officially in a bubble. You couldn't leave the bubble, all of that. So in order to produce this sports product, a lot of people had to make sacrifices. The camera people, the crew, all of that had to make sacrifices to be in a bubble to stay safe, keep
Yeah.
everybody as healthy as possible, and put on this product. So it is really a shame because the behind the scenes, as you and I talk about all the time, there's so much that goes into it. It's a shame, but that's where we are. So that's why I said I was almost like remembering of, yes, that's right. The
Yeah.
Lakers won, and they could, it's possible.
Yeah.
Maybe
Yeah.
they can make another run soon.
Speaking of behind the scenes, we got our next guest, our first guest joining us. Let me do this. Let me hit this quick commercial. We'll bring him on the other side of this right here on the lunch break on the legendary KYOK. Oh my goodness, Monday.
In bad pain, you know what I mean. Your knees hurt, your shoulder hurts, your elbow and back are constantly killing you. And I'm sure you've tried every pain
Coming to you, Willie.
cream available at the drugstore. Am I right? Well, here's something you haven't tried. Pain Magic. Pain Magic is not available at any drugstore. The only place you can get it is by calling the special toll-free number I'm about to give you. And to make things even better, call right now and find out about our buy one, get one free offer. We're so confident it'll work for you that we offer a free bottle with your purchase. No prescription required. Call now to learn how you can get Pain Magic and get rid of your pain. Remember, your results may vary. 800-221-2261. 800-221-2261. 800-221-2261. That's 800-221-2261.
I'm Houston Mayor Sylvester Turner. I wake up every day to work for our community, and Harris County Judge Lena Hidalgo does too. When the pandemic hit, she put people ahead of politics and fought for our community. When they came,
I'm with the great Dr. J. I'm almost good afternoon or good morning. What time is it? I don't know. Seriously, I really don't. Yeah. Good
How's it
afternoon.
going, Willie?
All is well. How are you?
Good. I'm great. Thanks for
Good.
asking.
Absolutely.
KYOK 1140 AM.
All right. 2 jingles and then it's us. 2 jingles and then it's us.
92.3 FM.
I'm sorry, 2 promos. I'm sorry.
Tune in to Table Talk with your boy
TD Black Show.
every Tuesday from 10 to 11 a.m. on the legendary KYOK 1140 AM and 92.3 FM.
See you there.
Hi, I'm Larry Scott, host of the Not So Christian and Me Show. Join me.
All right, what do we got over here? Let me see.
Music and the latest news surrounding our world today. We are the show that cares to hear your voice and opinion with real conversation in a no judgment zone. So join me Saturday from 1 to 2 p.m. on the Not So Christian and Me Show, right here on the legendary KYOK Radio 1140 AM and the all-new 92.3 FM and KYOKradio.org.
Hi, this is TJ from South Park. I listen to the lunch break with AJ Jones on 1140 AM and 92.3 FM.
All right, real quick, let me shout out to the Not So Christian in Me show. They had Robert Reed on the show this weekend for their Black History Month program. And for those who are former Rocket fans and other teams, Robert Reed is a good one. Robert Reed is a good one. I was jelly. So Larry Scott, Denise Scott, I was jelly. I ain't lying. Listen, without further ado, let me bring in the man with the plan. This dude hails from Akron, Ohio, but he also does his thing up in Columbus, Ohio, covers the Cleveland Browns, Cleveland Cavaliers, and he fools with The Ohio State University and the Big Ten. Got to get him in. Broadcast journalist, Will Knows Podcast, Willy Gibson. What's up, bang?
You got it, boss. How's everything?
Brother, let me tell you something. A lot has happened.
Yes.
We last talked
Yes.
about you coming on the show today. And all I can say is, oh my goodness, take me to the sidelines the last 15 seconds of Michigan and Wisconsin. Inquiring minds need to know.
Well, before I say that, Dr. J, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Willie. Good
Yes,
to
ma'am.
see you.
You as well. You as well.
Thank you.
I can't take you to the last 15 seconds. We got to go beyond that.
Okay, go beyond that.
Yeah, we got to go back.
Go back.
When let's go maybe 40 seconds left in the game.
All right.
And Wisconsin's up double digits. Greg Gard puts his walk-ons in, clears the bench, 5 walk-ons. Okay. Juwan Howard leaves starters in, and he's pressing the walk-ons. So, okay, he's coaching his team. We're going to play to the last whistle, double zeros on the clock. Okay. Greg Gard is doing the same thing. So when you're pressing walk-ons and a turnover occurs, Greg Gard said, okay, well, let me coach my guys up. I'm going to call a timeout. That's the issue right there. How can Juwan Howard be upset with that timeout when you're the one pressing with starters in the game down double figures?
All right.
So they come back. They finish the game. The handshake line. And so people are picking up the handshake line, but they're not going back to full context.
Okay.
So,
all right. Because you're back a little further than I normally go.
Right.
Go ahead. Dr. J want to jump in. Go ahead, Dr. J.
Okay. So I hear you, Willie, and I'm exactly on your page. You have to go backwards. It's not just the handshake line. But I'm going to go backwards and forwards to pull some context in. When Coach Gard was in his press conference, he explained the same time period you're talking about. Now, what he said was the referee came to him and said, Coach, you know you can call a timeout, and that way you can advance the ball and reset the clock to 10 seconds. Right. So the referee explained this to the Wisconsin head coach, Coach Gard. At that point, he calls the timeout. So I understand the way it looked, but now with more insight, he didn't call it because he was trying to coach him up. It was a resolution to the problem. They couldn't get the ball across half court. And the ref reminded him of that. And I think that's so important to what happens next. Go ahead. That's all I wanted to add.
I did not know that. That part I
saw his press conference. I heard the same thing. They only had 4 seconds to advance the ball across half court, and the ref told Gard that you can get a full 10 seconds if you do this. And right.
So he called the timeout.
Yes.
So he called the timeout based on the defense being played by Coach Howard. Great.
And the information given him by the referee.
Right.
Go ahead.
Right. So at the end of this handshake line, Coach Howard attempts to walk away and says, I'll remember that. Well, Coach Gard attempts to explain to him. He grabbed him in the way that Coach Howard didn't approve. Okay. So then they're going back and forth. Coach Howard is pushed away. Coach Howard is away. The assistant coach comes up and says whatever it is that he says whatever it is that he says. Let me say it one more time. Says whatever it is that he says. And Coach Howard swings at him. Open hand, not a punch.
Yeah.
But he swings at him.
Did not throw a punch.
He swings at him.
He swung at him, but I need to be clear. He did not throw a punch.
Yeah.
All the media members out there that on top of the story seconds after it happened.
Sure. It was open hand.
Coach Howard threw a punch, used a lot.
It was open hand.
Go ahead. And swung.
So you, Coach Howard, head basketball coach at the University of Michigan.
Got it.
Leader of young men. Example to said young men. Swing at the assistant coach for something that he said.
Okay.
And this is not an isolated incident because last year in the Big Ten tournament, there was an incident between Juwan Howard and former Maryland coach Mark Tejeron. Similar situation. Juwan Howard was upset with a call. Tejeron, rightfully so, pointed out that he was outside of the coaching box, alerted the ref, and reports are that, well, there were some things said. I'll say that.
All right, so we got Willy Gibson, broadcast journalist from Columbus, Ohio. Podcast covers the Cleveland Cavaliers, the Big Ten, and the Cleveland Browns, and the Ohio State University. We got Dr. J, broadcast journalist, who does amazing stuff, and we got more information about stuff that's going to be happening with her coming up. Now, let me just say this. I agree with everything that you said, with a couple of exceptions to kind of, and again, I love you. I'm just using words. We ain't battling nothing else. Jay, jump in. To kind of gloss over the way that Coach Gard stopped Coach Howard. And I'm specific with Coach Howard, not Jawan, not homie, not my guy. Coach, head coach, Howard. The way he stopped him was grabbing his arm and putting his hand in the center of his chest to not allow him to walk past, as he was clearly trying to do, and yes, had said something. I will remember that. There was no finger pointing at that moment. There was no gestures at that moment. There was almost a sidestep, a pull of the mask. I will remember that. And then there was grabbing and stopping by Coach Gard. I have a problem with that, in addition to everything else you said, even before I get to the history part.
Could I say?
History.
Could I tell you why I glossed over that? I'll tell you why I glossed over that. Because that, as a standalone incident, isn't the issue. Had it just been that, we wouldn't be talking about it right now.
Okay. Dr. J, let me get your point, and then I want to come back to that statement.
Okay, I'm like, oh, come on. So here's the deal. If you take a step back, and also if you heard Coach Howard's post-game press conference, his commentary was that the touching was offensive. Him touching him, there was no need to touch. It was a handshake line that had already done the handshake. He was trying to move on. He felt like he was now in a position where he needed to protect himself. So he was put in a survival mode. That's number one, and that's very important. Okay, so Jawan said what he was going to say, and he was going to keep it moving. The coach pulls him in. Now let's pull forward the post-game press conference where Coach Gard said, I wanted to explain to him why I called the timeout, because maybe he didn't understand the rule, and I'm paraphrasing. Now, here's where this gives me some Karen, some male Karen-ness about it. How are you going to explain a basketball rule to Coach Juwan Howard with a long history? Do you really believe he did not understand the rule at that point? So now you've got a sore winner that wants to drive it in and say, well, maybe he just doesn't understand the rule. So I have a feeling as well, it wasn't just the touching, it was the words that were exchanged and the tone that created additional bad blood. Now, both coaches were pulled away, okay? So, but you have to remember, if Coach Howard thought, I'm in survival mode, here comes from the left, from the position of Coach Howard, a coach from Wisconsin coming in at a fast rate of speed toward the incident, where, to me, in my opinion, if you're behind it, you should be pulling players away, not coming toward to add commentary to something that's not your business. Okay, so I will say this, even though I have all kind of degrees on the wall, I come from Missouri City, Texas. Don't start nothing, won't be nothing. So if you brought yourself to a fight, you best be prepared to get hit. And all I'm saying is he was the instigator. Without that incident, without that Wisconsin assistant coach butting in to a tussle, which would have only been tussle, I strongly believe, without him butting in and instigating even further, he elevated that circumstance to something worse. It was not, Coach Howard was away, Coach Gard was away. They were pulling players away. People weren't happy with each other, but it was just a little tussle. There weren't any fists being thrown. It was that coach coming into a situation that was not his. Remember the handshake line. Coach Gard in this instance was the head of Wisconsin's handshake line. His assistant coaches were behind him, then his players. On the Michigan side, Coach Howard was kind of in the middle of the handshake line, okay? So there were some Michigan players that were on the side, if you will, of Wisconsin. So what I'm saying is that the Wisconsin coaches had a real opportunity to pull their players back because their players were behind them. But instead, the Wisconsin coaches took a defense position. They weren't protecting their players. They were bucking up, okay? There's no other way to say this. That's what they did. They got Coach Guard out of there, but they bucked up. But that one assistant coach from Wisconsin, without his motion, if I'm in survival mode and somebody comes from the left quickly, I don't know what you're about to do. Honestly, I don't know what you're about to do. Go back to Malice in the Palace. Same thing. Without the bottle being thrown, without certain incidents happening, it would not have escalated. So, I hate that we focus on the end result. From a legal standpoint, you always talk about proximate cause. What is the proximate cause of that punch being thrown? It was not Coach Howard. It was this assistant coach who was out of the incident and chose to insert himself and instigate to elevate.
We got Willy Gibson, broadcast journalist from Columbus, Ohio, joining us here on Oh My Goodness Monday. We got Dr. J also joining us, and we're talking about the incident with Michigan head coach Juwan Howard and Wisconsin head coach Guard. Willie, let me ask you this question. Let me ask you this question, because as Dr. J brought the legalese in it, I was thinking from an assignment I used to have where I was a mediator, so it did not have to go to court. One of the things that they taught us in mediation is how to break all the elements apart and separate them out and says, yes, this is what ultimately happened. But what do you think would have happened if this part had not happened? Okay, gotcha. What do you think would have happened if that part, and they're individual pieces of a complete scenario. If you break all the main elements apart, and I've got 3 main elements that I saw in this. If you break them all apart, do you think that we would have ended up at this? If not, then can we agree to settle this and move forward? And typically the answer is yes. So that being said, let me ask you this question, Willie.
Mm-hmm.
If that had been Becky Hammond and she was coaching a men's team and she was upset for whatever reason, and she walked past Coach Guard or attempted to walk past Coach Guard and said, I'm going to remember that. And Coach Guard grabbed her arm and put his hand in the middle of her chest to explain to her why he did what he did, what would you say?
I mean, of course, that's inappropriate. However, again, yes, inappropriate. It was inappropriate from the touching. But again, Coach Howard.
I'm talking about that piece.
I understand. I'm just talking about, but the piece I'm talking about is this.
45 seconds. I'm not talking about the open answer. I'm talking about that piece.
That
if
piece.
you had done that to a woman, how would you feel?
That would be inappropriate. As inappropriate.
Can
I say what I say?
I'm just saying. Let me ask the obvious question on top of that. Then why is that appropriate to have happened to Coach Howard or any other coach?
Never said it was appropriate for that to happen. What I said was Coach Howard was away. He swung.
You're on a whole nother part.
No.
Break them apart. You got to break them apart. That's all I'm trying to do for our listeners.
Okay, break them apart. Okay. I never said it was appropriate for Coach Guard to touch Coach Howard the way that he did.
Okay.
What I said was
on that part.
Okay. Well, can I?
I'm going somewhere, and I'm gonna let you talk, but I'm going somewhere. On that part alone, what do you think, if anything, should happen to Coach Guard?
Oh, both were wrong. I'm not absolving Coach Guard of anything.
Okay, so now we know radio. We know radio that we don't use definitive answers to the commentary because we got people that are listening. So jumping real fast, so yeah, both are wrong. I'm asking specifically about Coach Guard putting his hands on another coach. Do you think anything should happen to him?
Sure.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. That part aside, now go ahead and finish your part and wrap it all up.
I lost my thought. Go ahead. We're good. I lost my thought. It's gone. Go ahead.
So
move forward.
So the initial part of the pressing, the initial part of the timeouts, and the feelings that Coach Howard had about those. What's interesting to me is seeing both press conferences. Coach Guards has changed after 2 press conferences. I'm sure he's had many, but after 2, they've changed because the first one, the immediate one, was all about the timeout and trying to get the ball over the court and the fact that the referee advised him what to do. And he made an interesting statement. He said, so I called a timeout, which I'm allowed to do. As if to be saying that I'm allowed to coach my team as he's allowed to coach his team. That indicates that there is some type of feeling of not superiority, but something more than just coaching basketball. It was a snide, unnecessary comment. So you cannot exonerate someone who's coming with that kind of energy to supposedly resolve an issue that, according to him, started when Coach Howard said, I'm going to remember that. And the second interview that I saw, he said, yeah, he was pointing at me saying, I'm going to remember that. I'm going to remember that. And then he poked me, and that's when I stopped him to explain why I did what it. That's not what happened. And if the story is changing, especially to something that we can see clearly didn't happen, then it's a sign of defensiveness and an avoidance of guilt. I'm just telling you what we learned in mediation. You got to look for those things, and those things are now.
I can appreciate that. I can also tell you what I saw. What I saw was Coach Howard was standing back. But to go back to Dr. J's point, while he was in the middle of the handshake line, because initially he was not in the handshake line. He refused to handshake. They put him in the line. So that's why he was in the middle. So he got there. They had their altercation, what have you. He was pushed away. Okay, he was away. The coach came up and said something to him, whatever it was that he said.
And we don't know what he said.
Right.
We don't know what he said.
Clearly it was something. But
that's the third part for me. To your point.
Can I say this?
Go ahead.
I just want to make sure I'm because are we absolving Coach Howard? Yes, Coach Gard touched him. Yes, the assistant coach said something. But what we saw was Coach Howard swing. Everything that was said, had it not before the swing, we wouldn't even be having this conversation right now, because they got into a heated exchange, and they went to the locker room. Once Coach Howard, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No. Well, what I was going to say is it's a shame that if Coach Howard doesn't swing, that we ignore the other elements that happen, because it's destined to happen to another coach again if we just ignore those first two items that occurred for them. It's destined to happen. When you put a coach in a position to be on the defensive, to be in survival mode, you're going to go one or two ways, fight or flight. That's a fact. And so if we ignore the things that led up to it, then we will be in the same position again. It might not be Coach Howard, it will be Coach somebody, but it will happen again. Now, let me say this again: when you come at a faster rate of speed than a walk toward a fight, I'm assuming you coming to fight. That's my assumption, and I have every degree on the wall. But I'm assuming if I'm frustrated and I'm kind of in disagreement with a person on your team wearing the same uniform you're wearing, and you come to the fight, you coming to the fight. So now I am outnumbered of sorts. Yes, Juwan Euro stepped and made a long reach, and we all understood how long his wingspan was. Well, I will say this: the assistant coach conveniently walked up when he had what I think he thought was backup. Y'all hold me back. I felt like he came up when he felt like he could not be touched. So, and then I felt like, based on his action, he probably said something to incite and to frustrate the incident. And at this point, Coach Howard doesn't know if this guy is coming after his players. We don't know if he said something about him coming after Coach Howard, the staff, or his players. We do not know. We don't know. And so that's the really hard part, because, again, we ask yourself, why does this happen? Look, in a court of law, even if you did something, there's a defense to some things that absolve you from it. Right. Like that's the reality. Right. He could seriously say, yes, I touched. Assault is, even if you just touch the cheek, that's assault. It's offensive touching, right? He could say it was defense of others because of actions that happened. In the court of law, he'd be absolved. What I am struck by, to your point, AJ, is that immediately it was all about the end result. Correct. And like you read the headlines, it was a brawl, it was a punch, it was all these things, and it was none of that. And I encourage
that Juwan Howard started a melee.
Do we know the name of the assistant coach? Just by virtue, if you but why do you know this? Why do you know the name? You had
What
to
do I
really
know?
research, right? You had to like kind of research.
No.
He covers the Big
I
Ten.
cover the Big Ten.
Oh, okay. You cover Big Ten.
But
The average person.
outside of that community, you're absolutely right. Most
People don't know.
Not have known who he was and been able to pick him out of a lineup.
And the news stories don't elevate this man's name either. He is not in the headlines. It is Coach Howard. And I get it. It is salacious. It's interesting. It's clickbait. It's all of that. But let's report it fairly. And if you go frame by frame, which I did, I went frame by frame to understand, and I used the inputs of the initial press conferences to do that. Then I said, this doesn't jive. And this has a bit of Coach Karen that has been inserted into the mix. And that frustrates everything. Okay. That's triggering for a lot of people when you come in and want to explain the rules to someone who is a veteran in a sport. That, I'm sorry, you are not innocent. If you're going to seriously tell me with a straight face that you felt that Coach Howard did not understand a rule, and you're gonna act innocent when you just told me that the ref had to tell you. Yeah. That's the part I said, you didn't know the rule. You just got informed of the rule. So how on earth are you gonna now want to tell it to somebody else? You just found out.
All right, so do this. Stay right there. We got to take a quick break. And I made one commercial on the jingle, and then we'll be right back with Willie Gibson and Dr. J. Very good discussion on Oh My Goodness Monday here on the lunch break on the legendary KYOK.
I'm sorry. I'm heated.
Oh, no. You good.
Oh, and Willie, this has nothing to do with you and your opinion at all. Like, I literally have been like this since it happened. I've just been like, oh. Now, mind you, was I hurt that Juwan did that? I was.
Save it for the show.
Okay.
Save it for the show.
Yeah.
Okay.
Bill Walton, save it for the show, big man.
But I just wanted you to know, Willie, it has nothing to do with your perspective. I appreciate it. I really appreciate it.
11:40 a.m. on 92.3 FM. The legendary KYOK. Hey, what's going on? This is Lecrae, and right now you're listening to the lunch break.
Oh, man, and it's hot up in here. It's getting hot in here on Oh My Goodness Monday. Willie bringing the heat. Dr. J bringing the heat. You know, I keep heat. And Ivan said, great radio. Appreciate you, Ivan. That is a good dude. Got to have him on the show because that's a good brother. All right, let's get back to it, Willie, in these closing moments in this first hour. In the NFL, I know if it's a different league and everything like that. In the NFL, they do a pretty good job of breaking down whose responsibility requires what type of fine and or suspension. I'm not going to get into numbers, but if you had to rate the worst offender, the second, and the third, if any, after the two, how would it fall for you?
To me?
Yeah, for you.
Okay, yeah. To me, I'm definitely make sure I protect my neck before I say this. Coach Howard is going to carry the brunt of the punishment.
Yeah.
I mean, that's one. Two, the assistant coach, and then three, Coach Guard.
Okay. Hold your thoughts.
Actually, can I go four?
Okay.
Because we talked about there was no brawl, there was a melee. It really was, because after the incident with the assistant coach and Coach Howard, players began fighting.
There were.
So those players, there's 5 regular season games left. They're going to be players that are going to miss time.
Okay.
As a result.
Fair enough. Dr. J, how would you assess?
For me to be the NCAA commissioner, there would be penalties against Coach Guard. There would be penalties against Coach Howard. I don't know if I see a different penalty for those coaches. Whatever the penalty should be assessed, I believe it should be assessed evenly, because again, it's not okay to instigate. Like, you can't over penalize the person that was the better boxer in the event when you came looking for the fight and you asked for the fight. So, and this was not an asking for the fight, but the instigators need the same penalty. Now, what I believe that will do is serve as a controlling punishment for the future. This will be a deterrent to other coaches that decide they want to jump in and create something bigger than there actually was. I also think that the players that made a decision to throw punches, to be physical, they should be assessed a penalty, no doubt. I hate it for all of them. As I said, I was hurt. I was hurt that people made a decision when you have a choice to fight or flight. I was hurt that they chose to fight. I really was. But again, you have to understand that when you're in a position of survival, when you feel like you're in a position of survival, we weren't on that court. We weren't in those close, cramped quarters. We didn't know all the scenario. It's difficult to say, well, they couldn't have been in survival mode. Perhaps they were. And when you're in survival mode, you have to be allowed to defend yourself. To us, it seemed like they weren't defending themselves. It looked like some initiation. But go frame by frame, and you may see something different occurring where maybe there was a heads up, like a punch was coming, and somebody else was just a quicker puncher, okay, where maybe their punch landed first, but they were about to be hit. Again, frame by frame is really helpful. That's why I love the Malice in the Palace documentary, because it went frame by frame for you to truly understand the elements at play. But I do think players have to sit down for a minute. What do I think is going to happen to Coach Howard? He'll probably be from the team. I think the team will suspend him for the rest of the season, and I think an assistant coach will play out the NCAA tournament, and then it'll be a to be determined after that. That's what I think.
Yeah, I agree with you on the last part as well. As far as I go, I would definitely give Coach Howard the largest part of the punishment, whatever it is, fine, suspension, what have you. I'm kind of torn on who would be number two. Coach Gard would definitely get a significant punishment because of the touching. If it was not okay to touch a woman coach like that, one of the players like that, it's definitely not okay to touch another coach. And we'll talk about that more in the second hour, Dr. J, than this one with the time we have left. And then the assistant coach definitely gets up because he was not coming to de-escalate. He was coming with something that did not need it to be added. It's like a player that leaves the bench to come and get in the melee, and I put more responsibility on the adults. So, yeah, I got to give you some, and it will be a deterrent for you doing that again. Same thing with the players. Punches thrown, pushes, whatever, got to give you some of that. Now, here's the last part of it. People keep bringing up the history. And I find it interesting because usually when there's a crime, we got to hear all the history. Usually when there's some type of incident where somebody gets hurt or killed or whatever, we hear all the history. I find it interesting that we are bringing up the history with Coach Howard. I know some of these incidents are recent. I haven't heard any of Coach Gard's history. I don't hear history when I hear Tom Izzo, and he has to be separated from physically touching players. We didn't hear a whole lot of history with Bobby Knight until he physically choked a player. We didn't hear history about Jimbo Fisher when he pulled a kid by the face mask and rips his mouthpiece out of his mouth. We didn't hear history about Tom Herman when he actually went at another team's linebacker, reminiscent of Woody Hayes back in the days of the Ohio State University. I just find it interesting that we bring in history at convenient times. I'm not saying you're doing that, Willie. I know it's a norm. I know it's a trend. I know it's the standard, but I always find it interesting how all the history doesn't come out, just that person's history.
Well, yeah, I mean, I'll say for me, I'm bringing up the history because call it recency bias, what have you, but we're talking about this individual incident. So this happened less than 12 months ago. So
again, that's what I said.
Yeah. So for me, I mean, speaking for me, that's why I bring it up. But and it's funny you mentioned Woody Hayes because I got a call shortly after everything went down yesterday and said, well, what's the difference between this and Woody Hayes? And I said, well, Woody Hayes punched a player.
Yeah.
You know, this was a coach.
Right.
You know, that weighs much, much heavier when you deal with the student athlete versus an adult.
And whether we value it or not, we see contact from that coach, from a coach to him. And to Jennifer's point, we can't get in Coach Howard's mind to see if he was in fight or flight mode, if he felt threatened or what have you. I interviewed the player. I forgot. I'm drawing a blank on his name. The Hall of Fame player that punched Rudy Tomjanovich.
Kermit Washington. Kermit Washington.
I had him on my Black History Month show several years ago, and to finally hear his side at this stage was interesting. It was amazing because what we saw in the video was enhanced by what we heard from his mind. And he took all responsibility, but he said, AJ, this is what I was thinking. This is what was going on. This is what was happening. I heard footsteps. I turned and bam, I hit that person. And unfortunately, the rest, is history. So I'm not going to act like I know what Juwan Howard was thinking as a result of that. Hey, man, we got to go. We got to hit the top of the hour. Willie, tell everybody where they can find you and follow you.
You can find me at Twitter, Instagram, Will Gibson 7, Facebook, Will Knows, the Will Knows podcast, and also Folks Talking Sports. I think this week is Friday, Folks Talking Sports, myself, OG, KG, Chris Gardner, James Mueller, also Andy Yanez.
Appreciate you, man. Thanks for your input and your expertise, brother. I love you, man. You one of them brilliant cats out there. I won't be like you when I grow up. So
most definitely.
All right. Talk to you guys.
All right. Well, listen, let's hit the top of the hour, Dr. J, and then we'll come on with our next guest right after this on the lunch break on the legendary KYOK.
The legendary 1140 AM KYOK Conroe and 92.3 FM K222CX Houston.
The views and opinions expressed on all radio shows broadcast on KYOK are entirely those of the hosts, guests, and callers who are entirely responsible for all show content and do not in any way reflect the opinions of KYOK Radio, its sponsors, staff, or management.
All right, y'all. We're in hour number 2 already. Boy, time sure flies when you are having fun. And we now transition from the first hour to the second hour, and it is our HBCU Stroll with the Coach Johnnie Cole. How you doing today, sir?
I'm good, Coach. How you doing?
I'm doing great, man. Listen, before we get to any of the HBCU stuff, like the HBCU Legacy Game, which I absolutely love, you are a coach in college football. I know you got some serious thoughts about what went down in college basketball yesterday between Coach Juwan Howard of Michigan and Coach Gard of Wisconsin. What are your thoughts, Coach?
Well, things get heated, but you as a coach are always supposed to be a leader and always supposed to, think first about you represent not just yourself, the university, your community, your family as well. And I just don't think any game of that nature, especially when you're at that age, that you've been there, done that, should get to that. At the end of the day, it's just a game, and you got to try to set the trend for your players, and you actually asking them to do the same thing. So, on both parts, it was unnecessary. Whatever's going to happen. Both, if not one, deserve whatever is coming. I think nothing when it comes down to playing a game gets to that level, especially when the adults are involved.
Coach Johnnie Cole joining us on the HBCU Stroll. I got Dr. J, Jennifer Thibeaux here as well. Coach, should one or both of the coaches be fired or just suspended, in your opinion?
Well, in each case is a little different because Juwan Howard is a Michigan man. And, it's almost like, my son do something wrong in the street. Am I going to throw him out or am I going to lock him up in his room for a while? And everybody know how an outstanding man he is, and what he's brought to Michigan. So some should be done. It's just the right thing to do. You know how I am. I believe in family. I believe in tradition. I believe in alumni. But they should punish him severely to make him understand that this is not necessary. But I think they should give him another chance. On the other hand, the other guy, it depends on what the school thinks of him, and where he's at. And I'm gonna look at them records. I'm gonna look at your team. You know what I mean? Are you winning? This might be what don't broke the camel's back. And so for Juwan too, but he's been winning. And he's taking that team, and he also is a great developer. I'm not real sure about this guy's background, but definitely he should get punished as well.
Dr. J, go ahead with your comments based on what Coach Cole said.
Well, first of all, good afternoon, Coach Cole. I was so happy. I don't know if you heard us on the first hour. I was like, oh, he'd be so great to come on the show today. So I was so happy to hear that you were coming on. I agree with you. I agree with you 100%. I talked to a few coaches over the weekend that had literally, it's like the good coaches read from the same script. Okay. So I'm putting you in the good coaches pool because you all brought up leadership first. And a coach has to be a leader to their team, right? And that's really, really important. And yes, we are asking Coach Howard to be bigger than himself in that moment and be able to control his emotions. We are asking that of him, but we're equally asking that of the coaches on the Wisconsin side to be bigger than that. And so I do agree with you 100%. I don't believe in throwing a coach away. I absolutely do not, especially when they've shown you so many other elements of greatness. I think, it is a great opportunity to suspend him, maybe coach him up in that particular area and bring him back. Whether that bring him back is by the tournament or it's for next season. I think there's so much value that Coach Juwan Howard brings to basketball in general and Michigan basketball. It can't be overlooked. I told AJ this over the weekend. I said, I'm hurt. I'm hurt for Juwan Howard because I saw a track for him, headed straight to the top, that maybe he becomes one of the legendary coaches in college basketball in particular. And so this is a hurdle that he will have to overcome on his path to wherever he's headed for his talent. So I was just hurt that he had to, that he's got to go through this right now, but sometimes it's what has to happen as he refines the great coach that I believe is within him to be.
Well, in my experience too, hopefully this can teach other coaches, because I've had face coaches that they try to use it for to get personal, to be like the player. When I'm showing you guys, I'm not going to lift it, pull a guy up off the ground. I get that. I'm not going to speak to the other coach. And I've had coaches like that, and I'm like, guys, we're just coaching the game. You know what I mean? You got to remember now, you ain't gonna stay at this place forever. You should be making friends with the other coach and shaking hands and letting the kids know, look, it's a game. We're gonna compete at the highest level. If we got to get physical, let's get physical. But take it outside of that, it's out of bounds. It's out of bounds. And I've met some coaches who do that. I call them characters. So I'm sad to hear and see. Juwan Howard, one of our greats, one of our African-American leaders. And of course, they always set the bar high for us. And, unfortunately, it's another letdown. But like I said, hopefully him being a Michigan man, give him a second chance at it.
Yeah. Coach Cole on our HBCU Stroll. I can't talk today. And of course, Dr. J. Jennifer Thibeaux. So as we segue into the HBC component of this, y'all stay with me now. I'm not talking about who started what. I'm not talking about how it ended up. So let me be very clear. I'm not trying to wrap it up, but there was a part of it that triggered me. And as I've seen the comments about how folks just have very little regard to it. And that's the part where Coach Gard, again, I'm not exonerating Juwan, Coach Howard. I believe Coach Howard was definitely wrong. I agree with BS3, Ben Sutter III. Juwan's anger got the best of him. I agree with that. But one of the parts that I want to talk about in our HBCU Stroll is where Coach Gard felt perfectly comfortable grabbing another coach by the arm and stopping him to make him listen to his explanation. Whether it was the details of why he called the timeout, whether it was to educate him on what the referee had just educated him on, whatever it was, Coach Gard literally felt very okay, normal, natural reflex to stop this grown man from walking away from me so he can hear what I have to say. And I've seen comment after comment after comment who literally said, oh, he was just this, oh, he was just that. And it troubles me that folks seem to think that it is okay for another coach to have a superiority complex to the point where he feels like he's got the right to stop another grown man and coach and tell him whatever he wants him to hear. Coach Cole, I want to hear your piece on it. And has anything like that ever happened to you? Because I know you've coached in other conferences that were not just historically Black colleges and universities.
Well, you know, I've had some experiences with other coaches, you know, and you know, sports is an egotistical game. You know, I don't know if it's so much of race, you know, you could take it that way, but
and,
you know,
it's specific not to say a Black man.
Right.
I want to keep it discussionable because some people tune out as soon as you put Black or white in it. But this coach felt very comfortable making Juwan Howard listen to him, and I want to focus on that.
Well, you know, and like I said, you know that shouldn't play a role in it. I think sometimes when you feel like you're a seniority coach, or and evidently he probably thought Juwan Howard was given that job instead of earned. You know, and we talk about that a lot on this show as well. So it was something that the coach felt, you know, superior that he would do that. And, you know, but then again, on the Juwan Howard side, we always teach the players to walk away because the ref never see the first incident. They always see the second.
You're right.
So, you know, he should have bought into that. And then, you know, on the other coach's side, I mean, he knows it's a heated time. It's a heated moment. They could have went after the game, let everything cool down, and then walked over there and met in the hallway, or either got him on the phone and told him whatever that he wanted to catch it. So, you know, they got caught up in the heat of the moment. I'm saying, and I don't know this guy, but you know, both again, you know, took part in it. You know, one, you shouldn't have grabbed him. Two, you shouldn't have reacted off of it. That's what we teach our players.
Yeah, Dr. J, your thoughts on just that piece, just that he felt okay to stop him and make him listen.
Well, I think the one word that keeps resonating in my mind is entitlement. I almost want to stop calling him Coach Gard and start calling him Coach Entitlement, because he felt entitled to be the messenger of information at that moment and wanted to forcibly, I don't care how you look at it, forcibly stop him and be the messenger of something that was voluntary and unnecessary at that moment, to Coach Cole's point. It is the entitlement that goes all through me, right? It is then the commentary in Coach Gard's press conference. It's the entitlement that's going all through his statements. It was the manner in which the assistant coach, who I felt like followed a lead, okay, let's just be honest, followed what he saw in front of him. Oh, so this is what we're doing? Well, this is what we're doing. Now, you know, hold me back. Let me spew my thing while I've got other people insulated in front of me, because I don't think anything bad can happen to me until Juwan showed us that he could Euro step and reach. Okay. So, I mean, that's, I think, what happened, but it was the entitlement of it all that I think is the crux for what jumps off after all of it. And people are going to forget that because they are going to call it a brawl. It's been labeled a brawl. It's been labeled a melee. It's been labeled all these things. And we're going to focus on the end result. But no one, hardly anyone, except for us, and I hope some other very smart journalists, will talk about what really instigated and got us to the end point. And let's not forget, Coach Cole, tell me if I'm wrong, let's not forget the interactions between a tenured coach and a newer coach can often be like that. Can often be like pat you on the back. Okay, little man, little girl, little woman. Okay, that's nice. Move on. Let's also not forget that the losing coach is never happy. Okay, everybody acting shocked. Oh my God, Juwan didn't like the way the other coach, Coach Howard didn't like the way the winning coach coached. That's no surprise. We knew he wasn't going to be happy going through that line. That's not a surprise. So that's not, to me, an interesting part of the story. The interesting part of the story is Coach Gard touching and pulling forward a coach to talk at all when it should just been a quick handshake line. Now, it's a pandemic, people. They shouldn't have even been doing a handshake right before the NCAA tournament just to help spread COVID to the rest of your team and be short some players we could have avoided a whole lot of that when the handshake line really doesn't matter. I say you stand at a distance, peace out, and you go on to your locker room and do your talk and move on. There's no point to the handshake line. The handshake line worked really well when we were in black and white television, and basketball was a little different. Now the emotions are high, the passions are high. I think it's time to let go of the handshake line.
Yeah. Once again, I don't know Coach Gard, but this could have happened as well. Maybe they had a pass, before. You know what I'm saying? And maybe they had a good pass where he felt comfortable. Hey, Juan. So we don't know, because coaches, they talk behind the scenes and on the phone. So maybe he felt that way. Maybe he recruited Juan back in the day and felt he had some personal relationship. So I don't want to throw the coach under the bus that he's a bad person, he's a bad guy, and all that kind of stuff. We all been athletes before. We all know sometimes we be in another place or area, but when you're adult, when you reach that coaching, that pinnacle, these are things that you teach your players not to do.
Absolutely. And they've recruited the exact same players. Like, let's be honest, they probably have been in each other's presence so many moments just throughout the recruiting process at the same tournaments, at the same schools, watching the same player they were trying to recruit. This is not the first time they've met, and people that don't know the process, the coaching process, don't understand that. So you said it best. We don't know if there was good blood, bad blood, or anything in between. But what we do know is Coach Howard, in his press conference right after the event happened, said that he had offensive touching, that he was touched and he felt like he needed to be in survival mode because of what Coach Gard did. He said that immediately after the event. So that tells me that even if there was good blood, that moment, it was not good.
Hold that thought, y'all. We got to take a break. Be right back. Good discussion here on Oh My Goodness Monday on the HBCU Stroll with Coach Johnnie Cole and Dr. J. Be right back right after this.
Tell your husband I said hello.
I will do that.
Where's he at now?
He is at USFL. He's going to be the USFL coaching. So he's getting prepped for that.
Okay. How far is that from Daytona, Florida?
Well, everyone's going to be actually out of Birmingham, Alabama.
In the USFL.
USFL, yeah, USFL.
I thought you said South Florida. Okay.
No. Oh, yeah, that's true. Yeah, USFL, and so they're all going to be out of Birmingham for this first inaugural season. But his team is the New Jersey Generals, and he'll be the defensive coordinator.
Oh, wow.
9215 800-395 9215 800-395 9215. That's 800-395 9215.
How is your car payment treating you? What if I told you you could make a free phone call right now and reduce your car payment by as much as $83 a month? Look at your car payment closely. You could be paying as high as 20% interest. Rate Genius can help you reduce your car payments by reducing your interest rate to as low as 2.48% APR. We can refinance most existing car loans or leased cars, new or used, and save you money every month. Put more money back in your pocket. The call is free to find out how low we can lower your car payment. 5 minutes of your time right now could save you hundreds of dollars a year. Call Rate Genius now.
800-811-4169. 800-811-4169. 800-811-4169. That's 800-811-4169.
No applicants qualify for a loan rate savings. Actual offer terms, including APR, are determined at the time of your application based on creditworthiness value of the vehicle, loan term, and other factors.
All right, y'all, last one.
1140. This is Brian Courtney Wilson, and you're listening to The Lunch Break.
All right, appreciate you, B. Mr. God is doing a great work. It's the HBCU Stroll. It's the Coach Johnnie Cole. It's Dr. J. And it's myself, AJ. And I'm going to hit y'all with a Black History Month trivia question at the end of the show, all right? All right. We're going to wrap up the Coach Guard stuff because, again, oh, my goodness. And then Coach Cole dropped off.
He did. I think he'll come back on.
Yeah, he'll be back. I want to get to a great event that took place this weekend over in New Orleans, Louisiana. One of the better events that I've seen like that in a long time. It was the first ever HBCU Legacy Bowl, and it featured all-star players from all of the HBCUs, and they put them in historic categories because one team was called Coach Gaither, as in Coach Jake Gaither, and the other team was Coach Robinson, as in Coach Eddie Robinson. And it was a great, great game. Coach Cole, welcome back. Your thoughts on the first HBCU Legacy Bowl?
Hey, I thought no expense was spared. I thought that it was a great game. I thought the kids played well. And here's the thing that I loved about it is it was the game between HBCU schools,
right? Not
black players. I seen white players there. They even made one of the coaches was a white guy. Again, choosing some of the coaches. I think some of the coaches, like myself, former head coaches that coached in the conference, could have been there somewhere coaching the wide receivers. I think more people need to get more involved than Doug Williams and Shea Harris. Even though they were the front leaders, they need some young folks like myself, because, after a while, they're going to have to hand the torch back. So I would have loved to see, some of the MEAC former head coaches on the sideline, as well as some of the SWAC coaches on the sideline. But I thought it was a class game. I thought the kids played well. We jumped off sides a couple times, and our field goals wasn't good. But besides that, man, I think it's going to be a wonderful thing.
Yeah, Dr. J, your thoughts?
Absolutely. Well, let's talk about why it was important to have this game, because I think that gets missed a lot when we see an HBCU game, period, much less the all-star of all HBCU games. 10% of the 362 players enshrined in the Pro Football Hall of Fame come from HBCUs. 10%. And we forget that. We forget the amazing contribution that comes from HBCUs. And it's a shame because that game this weekend was about exposure. And that's what the players, as well as the coaches, miss a lot, is the exposure to their talent. Right? It's not just the player talent. We also get a chance to see a little bit of the coaching talent and to hear names and see names. And that's so critically important. I love the fact that they spared no expense, that it was funded in a way that was respectful of the wonderful talent that was out there on the field and in the sidelines. That's so really important. Hopefully what they'll do, to your point, Coach Cole, is rotate coaching staff. The NFLPA Bowl, I think, does a great job of rotating the coaches through their bowl so that you don't always have the same coaches, head coaching and staff, and people get a chance to see different coaches. It also gives experience to coaches at the bowl game level or this, specialized game level. So hopefully they will do that, because you're right. You got to pass the torch. Look, you hold the torch long enough, it's going to burn your hand. It's time. You got to pass the torch to the other great players. But it's been missing to give those players the exposure right before you get to combine. It's just simply been missing, and hopefully that helps a lot of those young men on their goal of becoming professionals.
Well, I want to just piggyback. Can I just piggyback on the 10% and how important it should be more? But they didn't even respect Black college football until Black players started coming to the PWIs in the 70s. So that's only been 50 years ago. They don't miss the whole, several decades of outstanding Black players when we used to only could play against ourselves. That's right. And then now all those players are actually, the PWIs have went from, 100% white to 220 to sometimes 10% on a team. So there's a lot of other that we've missed out, but we'll take them 10%.
Absolutely. One of the things that we just saw recently with the Senior Bowl that just took place was a lot of these young men who are phenomenal athletes don't even get an invite to some of those more national all-star games. And then we had the president of that Senior Bowl literally go after a coach at FAMU because that coach was asking, what does it take to get one of his pro-level guys an opportunity to play in that game? And the president of that organization literally said, I've got friends on your staff. It's a shame that you didn't ask them about how to reach me. I mean, it's just another one of those things that people use as an excuse and to kind of put some of these Black head coaches in their place. And I know people hate when I say that, but it is what it is. He wouldn't have said something like that to Nick Saban. Definitely wouldn't have said nothing like that to Dabo Swinney or Urban Meyer, somebody like that. But I digress. I want to give some credit to the fact that, they had two head coaches, of course, Buddy Pugh, who hadn't lost the game since November, that he has coached. And then they got the coach from Bowie State, which more folks probably would have thought you would get a coach from the SWAC or something like that. But the fact that they chose two coaches from conferences that, unless you know HBCU football, you don't necessarily think about those two conferences first. I thought that was impressive as well.
Yeah. Well, they were two guys from the East Coast as well. That's the East Coast, and of course the SWAC is back on the backside. But we always talk about AJ about changing faces, because when you're watching a player, that's objective. You know what I mean? That's an objective decision they make. But when the faces are changed, then you'll see more different than, we need to go down to the Black colleges and see some white guys, they don't even want to go to the schools, to see or find out about a player. They just automatically assume. Back when Jerry Rice came down, they didn't go to Mississippi Valley to discover Jerry Rice. This is my 15 minutes of fame, AG. They discovered Jerry Rice when they played in Houston, and Jerry Rice then was playing Texas Southern, myself, and they were playing the Houston Oilers that Bill Walsh came to the game and seen, who was that kid?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And he got drafted, the last player drafted, and now he's the best wide receiver to ever play the game.
Hold that thought. We're going to take one more break, and we'll come back with more on the HBCU Stroll with Coach Johnnie Cole and Dr. J. If you want in, 281-453-1000. That's 281-453-1000. It's, oh my goodness, Monday.
AJ.
Hold on, Coach.
Okay.
Are you in bad pain?
Yes, sir.
You know what
I gotta say to you.
Your knees hurt.
Boy,
hurts.
Mike,
going back or constantly.
Mike, what's my man in Pittsburgh?
Tomlin.
And the Steelers, they some bad folks, boy.
We'll talk about that.
They some bad folks, they're making a statement.
Yes. Yes, indeed.
We gonna save you.
Yeah, we'll do that next.
That's big. That was big. Well, I smiled, damn near tear came to my eye.
I did too. I did too.
Confident it'll work for you that we offer a free bottle with your purchase. No prescription required. Call now to learn how you can get Pain Magic to get rid of your pain. Remember, your results may vary. 800-221-2261. 800-221-2261. 800-221-2261. That's 800-221-2261.
I'm Houston Mayor Sylvester Turner. I wake up every day to work for our community, and Harris County Judge Lena Hidalgo does too. When the pandemic hit, she put people ahead of politics and fought for our community. When they came after our right to vote, she fought back by extending voting hours and tripling early vote locations. I'm with Lena Hidalgo because she's with us. Join me in voting for Lena Hidalgo. Early vote is February 14th to February 25th. Election day is March the 1st.
Political advertisement paid for by Lena Hidalgo for Harris County.
Mom McDonald from Jamaica, play with Indianapolis Colts, and listen, you listen to the lunch break.
All right, y'all, we're back here on the lunch break on the legendary KYOK and the all-new 92.3 FM. It is our Oh My Goodness Monday. I want to give some love to a couple of players. Jeremy Hickbottom, quarterback from Tennessee State, was the offensive player of the game. And then FAMU's Antoine Collier was the defensive MVP of the game, had 9 tackles, 1.5 tackles for loss. And again, that was the player that his coach was trying to get in the Senior Bowl, but couldn't get nothing but some correction. So anyway, want to give some love to them, and I also want to give some love to Patrick Mahomes for his involvement in that bowl, because from what I understand, what he saw, he loved, and even has committed even more of a commitment for next year, and said that he will be bringing other players and sponsors to get involved. So you got to start somewhere, and I think they got off to a very good start. That being said, Coach Cole, Johnnie Cole, on our HBCU Stroll, Dr. J, Jennifer Thibeaux, there was another oh my goodness moment from this weekend, and that was the Pittsburgh Steelers picked up a senior defensive assistant by the name of Brian Flores, who, as we all know, has sued the NFL, including the New York Giants, the Denver Broncos, the Miami Dolphins, and the Houston Texans for discriminatory hiring practices. Coach Cole, your thought about the hiring of Brian Flores by the Pittsburgh Steelers?
I think the Pittsburgh Steelers organization made a statement. And, we always talk about Dallas is America's team. I think that statement is far off, way off. I think America's team is the Pittsburgh Steelers. I think the Rooney family, has made a statement. They rich and they're white, and they understand what we go through as African Americans. And not only did they come up with the Rooney Rule 20 years ago, now it was displayed. They weren't just writing something down and all these little boy interviews. They stand by what they say, and it's time for a change. And no, y'all not gonna ruin this young man's life. Y'all not gonna put his family in a situation. We got you, because you're a great coach, and you shouldn't be judged by being truthful and honest. And that was God. I gotta say that was God, because I counted him out. I said he would never coach again in the NFL. Now I thought he would get a college job, but I thought that he would never. And Mike Tomlin and the Rooney family and the Steelers and the organization, man. I mean, man, that was big. That was big.
Dr. J, your thoughts?
Oh, same thing. I thought if any team was going to do it, it would have been Pittsburgh to do it, because they are, to your point, the true America's team. They exhibited action from their words. And that's what we see so often. We see companies, not just NFL, will put diversity statements and everything will sound great on paper. But when you see it in action, that's when it actually means something. And so I was really proud of Pittsburgh for carving out a space. They didn't have to. It was a carve out, okay? They carved out a space, allowed this coach to coach, allowed him to continue to develop his coaching acumen and his talent, to not have a gap that becomes larger and larger and makes it easier for people to not hire you, right? It has become easier not to hire Colin Kaepernick because the gap has just widened and widened. So now you've got someone who's continuing on their path as a coach, as a good coach, and allows him to make his next move respectfully. Now, I will say this also. We always, fans in particular, look at NFL and NCAA as a step up or step down either way. When actually, paycheck wise, a lot of times you can make more money as a coach in the NCAA than you would have made with your coach, especially if you're a position coach in NFL. There are plenty of NCAA coaches, even at the position level, coordinator level, that make more, that take home more to put on their family's table than you do in the NFL. It's not the step up and step down that we all necessarily see. But I like the fact that he is in a position of a family, a football family, that is supportive of him, that will allow him to continue to thrive. And I pray it allows the public to see Flores a little differently than many are seeing it now. But additionally, I hope the public also doesn't look at it like he goes from head coach to defensive assistant. Look, in coaching, that happens all the time. All the time. Look at Coach Saban's staff. He is filled with coaches that were head coaches, but they're just labeled as a quality assurance person or as an assistant. This happens all the time. This is the industry, and I'm so happy to see the Pittsburgh Steelers do this.
Yeah. No, I agree with everything that was said, especially the part about the Steeler ownership family being committed to what their father started, and that was to try and make sure that there was diversity. I don't like the Rooney Rule. I don't like that we have to have it, but at least Mr. Rooney tried to do something. He tried to put his money where his mouth is. So I wasn't surprised that they signed Brian Flores. What I also don't like, though, is that folks are coming from he dropped off. Folks are coming for Mike Tomlin and his hiring record of minority coaches. And that right there tells me people aren't doing their homework, because Mike Tomlin has a very, very strong history of hiring minority coaches. You know, folks are all looking at the coordinators, offensive coordinator, defensive coordinator, but look at the entire body of work and you'll see a different story. And then the other thing to that is, why is Coach Tomlin responsible for bearing the torch for everything black coach or black assistant coach? That's why I want diversity in the front offices. I want diversity in the coaching staffs. I definitely want diversity with the players, but I want diversity with these newsrooms too, because stories that people are writing and the way they're putting the burden on this guy versus that guy, it's a win, it's a lose-lose, proposition when you look at it that way. This man is doing everything that he possibly can, and oh yeah, by the way, still hadn't had a losing record.
But to your point, why didn't if Tomlin is doing something bad, then why don't we talk about Coach Bruce Arians? Right? Coach Bruce Arians has been committed to hiring the best person available. That has been his commitment. So if it turns out that his offensive coordinator and his defensive coordinator are both African American, he said, I'm behind the best man or woman. Let's be diverse, the best coach for the job. And I believe when you have that mentality, your coaching staff will begin to look different. Yeah. When you're not allowing your recruitment practices to be, I got a guy. See the I got a guy, that's when you wind up having a staff that looks very much the same. But I got a guy, because my guy is going to look just like me. If I say, well, Coach Cole, who do you want? Well, I got a guy. Well, your guy's probably might just look like you, right? This I got a guy is killing the coaching profession at the NCAA and the NFL level. It's killing it. When we go after the best talent out there and we look at what makes a good coach, and that's what we go after, staffs will begin to look different.
Yeah. Coach Cole, let me ask you, as you were putting together your staff, did you bring in a guy or did you bring in people that you knew and you were comfortable with and you knew could get the job done? And he dropped off.
Oh, we lost him.
Yeah, he dropped off. Yeah,
I know his answer. Yeah, I know his answer to
it. As a head coach in the HBCU ranks, I know he's been outspoken though about guys jumping the line and not getting opportunities for Black coaches in HBCU schools, because if they don't get those opportunities there, I'm with him. Where else are they going to get them? They're not going to get them at Power Fives or Group of Fives and many of these other schools. So if they don't get them on the HBCU ranks, where will they get them?
Right. And it's the I got a guy mentality. If all things remain the same, then you're going to get the same outcome from your coaches. And that's just the way it's going to happen. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. And so, I hate that for the staffs, that what we're really talking about is people don't know how to hire. Okay, let's just be real. People don't know how to recruit and they don't know how to hire. And this is not an NFL problem. This is not an NCAA problem solely. This is a corporate entity problem. Folks don't know how to identify talent when it comes to coaches, and they don't know how to recruit, attract, and retain top talent. They don't know. So the lazy way to get and hire a coach is to go to I got a guy. Oh, you have a guy? Oh, cool. Then you solve my problem on this position. And that's not at all the way it needs to be, because you leave good coaches. And you and I talked about this before with Coach Flores. It was not a matter of the NFL not hiring a Black coach in certain scenarios. It's that you passed up good coaches. Nobody's upset when you pass up bad coaches. They could be purple, they could be green, they could be polka dotted. We're frustrated because we know you're passing up solid, talented, winning coaches. Yeah. And we have to ask ourselves, why does this consistently happen, that you're passing up good coaches? Because even though Flores may have been passed up, other good coaches that were of a different ethnicity were also passed up, because that's what I got a guy does. I got a guy passes up the opportunity to evaluate what a talented coach can do for your program.
Yeah. And I always appreciate incidents like we just had with Coach Howard, because you really kind of get a good feel for how people really think. Folks can be beside you silent and think some of the craziest things in the world. But when incidents happen and they express their opinion, you get a real good understanding of how folks really think. And it's the same thing with the Brian Flores situation. Some of the comments that people have made, i.e. Michelle Tafoya and others, have given us a real clear indication of who you really were beside us the whole time. While you had a microphone in these players' faces, this is what you were really thinking the whole time. And for me, that's valuable information.
Well, and you're a journalist. I fancy myself a journalist. I take offense when people are so far on one end of the spectrum or another in the way that you tell the story, right? You should be telling their story, not the version of the story you want to be told. And that's where with a person like Michelle Tafoya, it makes me feel like you were always telling your version of other people's story. And so I never got the true story out of your reporting. Right. And then you just kind of want to discard or devalue what they've done in the past. And that's just not the way a journalist is supposed to be.
Yeah. Yeah, no. And again, to just kind of tie this all together, there were some that didn't think that there needed to be an HBC Legacy Bowl. And they as much said so. But, knowing how hard it is for these schools and these players to get representation in the Senior Bowl and the Shrine Bowl and these other bowls that are supposed to showcase all-star talent when somebody's a senior or in a different standpoint, then if they don't get that chance there, where will they get it? And then you hear the argument, well, everybody can't go. You're right. Everyone can't go. But some people don't just let it die there. Some people create opportunities. Other people try to dictate why folks shouldn't get opportunities. I'm going to be a creator. I want to be a creator.
Well, absolutely. Currently, there's a pipeline. There's a pipeline to get to the NFL. So when the pipeline doesn't pass through HBCUs, how do you expect those athletes to get into the pipeline? Look, I've had a window into other professional leagues that have come about over the past few years and how their process works. I've listened to the players that just want to get on. They've been keeping themselves healthy and in game shape, and they haven't made an NFL team, but they are ready to play at a professional level in someone else's league. Yeah. There are so many steps and hurdles that are in front of them to actually get on TV, right? And people don't even recognize that so many investments, even their own personal financial investments, to forego a job because they need to train. They need to train to be ready so they can be in the pipeline that will allow them to go through the ranks. Folks don't recognize that. That's why I think there's so much value with the USFL, the XFL coming back next year, because prayerfully that pipeline will expand, will go into new places and allow us to see different figures. I want to give a shout out to Vaughn Campbell, who actually came out of Canada. He was coached by none other than Coach Chris Dishman for the Montreal Alouettes. And Coach Dishman at that point told him, you can play in the NFL. It is in you to play in the NFL. Coach Dishman worked with him, mentored him, introduced him, literally making phone calls. Vaughn Campbell is playing in the NFL today when he was only in the CFL. He's a Canadian player. Yeah. It's one of the few that have been able to do that. But it's all because someone cared enough to create the exposure and a pipeline for you. But it shouldn't be a one-off scenario, right? We just don't necessarily even have enough coaches that have that kind of exposure and relationship to get players introduced. That's why that game is so important. It broadens that pipeline.
Absolutely. And I think they did a phenomenal job. Again, very, very grateful, because a lot of those young men showcase talent that most folks would not get to see. Great job, HBCU Legacy Bowl creators. And I love how they incorporated a job fair. I love how they incorporated community service, scholarships and things like that. It was just a very well done thing. We got to take another quick break. We'll wrap it up after this, Dr. J. I know that Coach Cole, we're going to keep in our prayers. He has an interview today. He has an interview today with a very phenomenal school. So hopefully we'll get some good news from that. So let's just keep him in our prayers. Again, we'll be right back and wrap it up right after this on the lunch break on the legendary KYOK.
This is Candace Houston. Tune into my new radio show called Candid Plug every Saturday from noon to 1. We will have engaging conversations on current events, topics that affect the community, and religion. Join me each Saturday from noon to 1 for my new show called Candid Plug, where you plus me equals us, right here on the legendary KYOK 1140 AM and streaming live on KYOKradio.org.
1140 AM and 92.3 FM. The legendary KYOK.
Attention, those of you looking to go on a fun vacation and see the world on the cheap. Today, the US dollar is worth even more in other countries, so there's never been a better time to travel outside the USA. The dollar is worth over $1.30 in Canadian dollars, and it's the same for Australia. You can fly there today and have fun and maximize your travel dollar. Your US dollar is worth over $3 in Brazilian reals, and it's worth over $18 in Mexican pesos. Plus, in Argentina, it's worth over $27 in Argentine pesos. Just think of the bargains you'll get. And the way you get the cheapest airfare to any destination is by calling Tickets That Cheap. Save up to 75% on your foreign vacation tickets. Don't wait. Call now. 802-317-1983. 802-317-1983. 802-317-1983. That's 802-317-1983.
Beautiful people, this is Major. This is why I love you. On the lunch break.
Appreciate you, Major. And I've got Dr. J still with me. We are taking our HBCU stroll. The Coach Johnnie Cole had to drop off. It's still, oh my goodness, Monday. And you were talking about the USFL, other leagues that's coming up, XFL, going to be coming up as well. And I am glad to see that the USFL is doing their draft starting tomorrow, and it's going to go tomorrow through Wednesday. Mm-hmm. And there are several players from HBCUs that are in the draft pool. In fact, Akil Glass, who had a great career at Alabama A&M, didn't do it by himself. He had a very good wide receiver by the name of Isaiah Bailey, 6'2", that is going to be in the draft pool for the USFL. Bethune-Cookman has a nice young man, Frank Brown, that's in that draft pool as well. Peyton Ramsey, 6'1", out of Tuskegee, in that draft pool as a wide receiver. Alabama State's got a real big tight end. And, you know, as we saw with Rob Gronkowski and Kittle and Travis Kelce, tight ends can make you or break you in the NFL. They've got 6'5" Brandon Barnes out of Alabama State and 6'4" tight end Kalis Robertson out of Alabama A&M that are in that draft pool. They've got a lot of offensive linemen that are coming through. Mississippi Valley State has got a big 320-pounder, 6'4", Sean Brown is in that draft pool. Most of those guys would not even get a look from the NFL. Most of those guys wouldn't even get invited to the combine where you supposedly get the looks. But to hear their names and see that they are in that draft pool and have a chance to be drafted in what could be a very good league, I'm excited for.
Absolutely. Oh, absolutely. Because they not only have an extraordinary chance to be drafted, but also you have to look on the coaching side, right? I always focus on coaches.
Right.
You know, the USFL has been very purposeful of hiring veteran coaches that could help coach people to the next level. And so additionally, they've been very purposeful about putting people in the draft that had a real chance and opportunity to be coached to the next level as well. Because of course, it becomes a part of a storied history if you can say they got their start in the USFL and then went on to other leagues, you know, the NFL or even the CFL. And so I think it's so important just to watch what happens and to look on the sidelines and see who's coaching them and mentoring them, because it's really important, both to the USFL and I know the XFL as well, to hire coaches who have been to the big show, who have gone to the highest level so that they can really develop. Both of those leagues are developmental leagues. They are designed to put a player in a position, if their talent continues to rise, to have a real look for the NFL. So I'm excited about it.
And a real-time game experience. Just got a text from one of my frat brothers. He pledged down at Xavier. He said, yo, man, look out for my nephew, Josh Fields, 6'6", 320 pounds, out of Elizabeth City State, which is another HBCU. And bro, you ain't lying. That's all the intangibles right there to be able to play in the NFL. But if he goes from college, doesn't get to play anywhere, and then quote unquote is trying to make the league, he's at a disadvantage. If he can get some reps him at the USFL level, the XFL level, then guess what? Those are reps that will help make him better.
And he's not just building reps, he's building relationships with coaches that support them, right? So unfortunately, HBCUs get such a bad rap because if a position coach in an HBCU says, hey, this is a Sunday guy, the first person that's going to judge that statement is the person that says, well, who is that position coach from an HBCU, right? Unfortunately, they judge where the sentiment and the support is coming from. But now with these USFL players now having the support of big time names that people recognize saying, no, this is a Sunday guy. Now you've got a different conversation and a different opportunities and exposure.
Yeah, they're coming in now. AJ, keeping an eye on Norfolk State linebacker Nigel Chavis, 6'2", 230 pounds. He is a legit hitter. So again, you know, I don't know about these guys because, you know, I kind of cover the SWAC, I kind of cover the MEAC, but to hear about guys at these different schools that, you know, are now going to get a chance to show their talent, to show their wares on a next level, I think it's great. I'm really excited about it.
Well, I've seen the list. Okay. I've seen the list of guys that are in the draft. And I think the beautiful thing about the list is that you see the UConns, you see the Stanfords, you see the HBCUs, you see such a variety of talent. And that's what struck me when I kind of glanced through the list. I'm like, wow, we're really getting a much more diverse, in my mind, talent pool of you know, action. So I love that. I absolutely love that.
Yeah, see, that's what you've been talking about all along about, getting a diverse talent pool and knowing how to mine the gems out of that talent pool. But if you got a small talent pool, your opportunities for finding gems smaller.
That's right. That's absolutely right. So it's let me tell you, it's going to be fun. Those rosters are going to be set really soon, and we get a chance to see play action very quickly with the USFL.
I'm looking forward to it. Dr. J, we got to get ready to go. But on this day in Black history, I want to hit you with a trivia question.
Oh, Lord.
Who was the first Black person to register to vote in the United States?
Oh, I really don't know. I hate that. I hate that I don't know, but I really don't know. I really don't. So I'm not going to even give an answer to be disrespectful to who was a part of that.
I'm going to be honest. I did not know until I looked it up. Mm-hmm. And I want to introduce to some and present to others a name that we will remember going forward. Thomas Munday, M-U-N-D-Y, Peterson, registered to vote just 2 months after the 15th Amendment was ratified and approved that gave all Black people the right to vote legally.
But not women.
And he cast his vote on March 31st, 1870.
Which is amazing. Because
I know for me, I think civil rights and the fighting for the right to vote but that fight had been going on years before the civil rights. Not saying that the civil rights movement was, because it's paramount. It is who we are. It's why we are. It's why we're able to do what we're doing now. But I'm thankful for a Thomas Munday Peterson, because you got to know, just because they passed the amendment didn't mean that they wanted people to exercise the amendment. And
that's absolutely right. There have been so many laws on the books for years and years and years, federal laws that allowed certain things that were game changers, but states did not allow it, and states run the show by states. So the idea that before the 1880s, the idea that whole process worked and the way that the law was designed to work is kind of amazing. I knew it would be a man because women were not allowed to vote at that point, period. And so, that didn't come until I think the 19th Amendment. But, it is just because they changed the law doesn't mean that they changed the act and the actions that happen in our society. And that's so important because that's today as well. That same thing holds true today. That's why the civil rights movement happened, because we were saying, hey, this is supposed to be so, and it's not so we need to fix it. So that's awesome. Thank you for educating me on that one.
Hey, I just got it myself, and I was like, man, I got to share that because we're in early voting here in Texas. And I mean, vote like our lives depend on it, because they do.
Yes.
So listen, Dr. J, tell everybody where they can find you and follow you, please.
All right. You can always find me at jenniferthibeaux.com. If that's hard to spell, I'm sorry. Blame my mom and my daddy. You can always catch me on all social media at Jen Thibeaux. And let's connect. Come on, let's connect and talk about it.
All right, y'all. We appreciate you, Dr. J. We will talk to you tomorrow. You have a great rest of your day today.
Thank you.
Again, thank you for being on Oh My Goodness Monday.
Absolutely. Always a pleasure.
All right, y'all, let me close out with Thibeaux Wilkes and what you need to know. Great show. I want to thank Coach Johnnie Cole. I want to thank Will Gibson, Will Knows Podcast, and definitely got to thank Dr. J. As always, let's not be divided. Let's be united. I love you. There's nothing you can do about it. And again, we'll talk to you tomorrow for a Talk Your Team Tuesday. Here's Thibeaux Wilkes.
It's Thibeaux Wilkes with what you need to know. Today is Monday, February 21st, 2022. Number 1. This week, with the possibility of war in Europe, and as President Biden readies his historic nomination of a Black woman to the United States Supreme Court, we should also take the time to remember the murder of a young Black man and the emergence of a movement. The What You Need to Know newsletter looks back at the murder of 17-year-old Trayvon Martin 10 years ago, February 26, 2012, and what has happened since. Neighborhood watchman George Zimmerman killed the Black teenager described as suspicious as Trayvon walked in the gated community armed only with a beverage and a pack of Skittles. Number 2, when receiving a debt collection call, you'll need to make sure it's a legitimate call and not a scam. Unfortunately, most of us don't know our rights, and by knowing your rights, you can better deal with these calls. Read more about how to protect yourself in today's newsletter brought to you by Texas CPA Katrina M. Kraft. Number 3, U.S. Surgeon General Vivek Murthy has tested positive for COVID-19. He tweeted Friday morning, just days after revealing his 4-year-old daughter has also tested positive for the virus. Dr. Murthy is vaccinated and boosted, and his symptoms are mild, he said, muscle aches, chills, and a sore throat. Doctor said all family members who are eligible are also vaccinated, and tweeted Friday that his family members also have mild symptoms. Number 4, a 12-year-old swimmer identified as Lady Lyons was briefly disqualified from a competition in Wisconsin for wearing a homemade Black Lives Matter swimsuit. Local media and about 20 more people with allied groups who went to swim meet and advocated on Lady's behalf. The race official who disqualified Lady was a volunteer who was removed from the competition and barred from future meets hosted by the YMCA. Number 5. In 2002, Vanetta Flowers became the first African American and the first Black athlete from any country to win a gold medal at the Winter Olympics. Now, Elena Myers-Taylor, a bobsledder from Douglasville, Georgia, not only followed in her bobsled tracks, but she's made a...
AYOK Conroe, and 92.3 FM, A222CX Houston. Are you ready?
All right, y'all. I hope y'all enjoyed the show. Again, I cannot thank Dr. J enough. I cannot thank Coach Cole enough. I cannot thank Willie Gibson enough. And I can't thank y'all enough for always being present, always being who you are, and blessing us, pumping us up so we can do what we do. Let's not do this. Let's stay here. All right. Got some good things coming up for you. We'll be talking about those at the end of the week, but just wait. Got some stuff coming up. Love y'all. Talk to you tomorrow.